Yeah, we're going to get Zac Jackson from The Athletic. And after a quick word from Epicor, every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices, from small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global visions. We'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way, because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com. That is easierwithepicor.com.
Zach, we just talked about Dawand Jones. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, let's start with that.
I'm about 5 pounds under where Dawand is, but I'm good.
You are? As Dawand, do you think he's down to 350 or somewhere in that neck of the woods?
He probably is. Now, I think you have to judge him on a little different scale.
Yeah.
He's a freak. We knew about him. He played at Ohio State, right?
Go Bucks.
Saw him the one day at the Senior Bowl, and he kind of checked himself out after that. But, he was so big and so dominant in that one day. And then the Browns drafted him, and they listed him at 374, and I just laughed because I'm like, I've never seen a guy so what must he have been if they listed him at 374?
Yeah, right.
And when you see
if you're
him,
listed at that,
right? And I've spent my entire adult life around these guys. My version of big is skewed. Right?
Yeah, sure.
But there's Shaq, and then there's the rest of the guys you see in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then there's Dawand and the rest of the guys you see, with few exceptions.
Sure.
Right? Like when Miles and Clowney used to walk around together, and they would just dwarf the other guys, you'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
But when you watch Dawand with the other offensive linemen, and yesterday just going out there amid the madness, who's here, who's not, what's going on, you didn't notice him at first. First of all, I didn't really expect him to be out there.
Yeah.
On the first day, but he was in all the 11-on-11s. I don't think he came out once early. He might have because we're trying to watch so much, but that is really encouraging because they were thinking training camp. And that's the thing with him. If he's in it, if he's healthy, he's active, he's been a good player. And he's probably just scratching the surface.
It seems like he's a first-round talent if he's healthy and in shape.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I think his abnormal size was probably a reason.
Yeah.
And that was tied to why the pre-draft process went the way that it went.
Yeah.
But guys that big don't stay healthy. There just aren't guys that big.
Yeah.
It's when you look at his size and you talk about what he did at the Senior Bowl, the biggest question is, will he be able, if somebody's fast and quick twitchy, can he handle it? Can he bend?
Right.
That's the question. You that big, can you bend and get down to those? And when he does it, it's like, if that's the case, then you found your left tackle of the future. He's the typical size that you want. And if he moves his feet really well, which the basketball background that he has allows him to be able to shift and move like that. That's why, if he's healthy, he's good.
We watched him as a rookie on 20 snaps with the ones go in there. And when he got his hands on TJ Watt didn't get around him.
Yeah.
Right? On the road. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If you didn't notice him when he's first on the field, that tells you all about what kind of shape he's in. All right, let's switch it up, obviously, to the quarterbacks.
Is the number skewed?
The numbers are ridiculous. People reading into numbers.
Those are ridiculous. The chart, but I get it.
Of course.
It's what people want to know.
Yes.
Now, you have to talk about it at all.
Yeah.
You have to roll your eyes, and you have to add context to where they are.
Yeah.
Because those throws include some that are on the 3-yard line, some that are on the 5-yard line, some with the ones and 11-on-11, some with 7-on-7s with some guys that have no prayer to make this team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But, this is what we're charting. This is the competition. They say it's a 4-man competition. It's not. It's 2 guys versus 2 guys. It's the 2 older guys to be the starter.
Yeah.
It's the 2 younger guys to position themselves however it may be and show little improvement every single day, right? So, of all the things I'm watching the first 5 when they break a session, the first 5 with the veterans, with the ones. Who's in there? Where are they going? The ball's going to Jerry Jeudy, right? Flacco's no dummy. Last as long as he has, right? He can really whiz it. But as we go on, I want to watch these guys because they probably just got plays installed Tuesday, and they're out there running them Wednesday. Again, with guys that have no prayer to make the team.
Yeah.
And Shedeur's going to have to be so good to earn more reps that he's going to have to continue to deliver. I watch him. He's talented. I hear things. He's handling things well. We'll see. He's 2 days in. He's 2 weeks in. They just 2 Tuesdays ago is the first time they were ever in the building for anything other than rookie minicamp or a visit, which was just hanging out and talking an hour on the whiteboard. So they're just getting used to this.
So beyond the stats, the important thing is everything has been positive so far as could be with Sanders.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, with all of them, but yes, with him, sure.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
he's going to have to win every single day
Yes.
in the meetings, in the asking questions, in the staying after practice, and all of that, because just to earn more chances, right? And we're going to really judge, and I'm going to be a part of it when we get to the summer and these joint practices, because that's where it's going to be. But to earn those chances, he has to do it now, and I really think the other guy does too, because I don't see the other guy impressing at all. And I'm not trying to be personal with him.
Right,
he
sure.
does not look like an NFL quarterback. And 31 other draft rooms didn't think he was a second-day pick.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to earn those too, because eventually they're going to matter. Right now, we're just talking about them. They don't matter.
It's fair.
That is fair. So after practice yesterday, was Shedeur still staying after practice, still doing the extra stuff?
Not yesterday, but none of them were.
Okay.
So,
They probably spread it inside the watch.
yeah, it's a pretty regimented day with OTAs. It's basically a full regular work day, but they cut about 3 hours out. So they probably do have to get in and get to a post-practice meeting. Right.
What did you think of Kenny Pickett?
Looked like Kenny Pickett to me, which is unimpressive. But again,
Yeah.
So you would agree that with Jason that the two best quarterbacks yesterday that had the best day from what you've seen was Joe and Shedeur.
yeah, I mean, we're Allen Iverson. We're not just talking about practice. We're talking about May practice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
standing
Yeah.
there with
Yeah.
Jason, right,
Yeah.
talking about lunch and watching guys throw, right? It's
Zach was
Joe
the first one in to
and
get
Shedeur.
lunch. I want that on the
He's
record.
got his priorities straight.
I was early in the media room,
Yeah.
but he already had the plate in front of him.
Was there a decent spread at the
It was good. It
38
was
lunch?
good. It was
Nice one, huh?
Spectacular.
What about
turkey meatloaf, chicken?
Well, hold on.
parm.
We got to
Yeah.
get back to the quarterbacks before we deviate to lunch. Zach, can you finish what you were saying? Do you agree with Jason? It was Joe and then Shedeur as the top two guys.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right.
Joe throws the ball. You're like, wow. I mean, he laps the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Just
So-
throwing the ball.
So if the Browns are going to start the quarterback that gives them the best chance to win, is there any doubt that Flacco's the choice, or is it?
To me, no.
Yeah.
Do I know how it's going to go? No.
Yeah.
This is a basic but direct point. They just have to get it right. If it's anybody but Flacco, I'll be surprised, maybe not stunned, because we're talking about the Browns.
Yeah.
But, they just have to get it right. Europe in week 5 and bye week at week 9, which coincides with the trade deadline and this early schedule.
Yeah.
If Flacco's going to play, he's got to deliver. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and if somebody other than Flacco plays and they fail, now we're talking about what is going on here and how sunk is this thing. Because
Right.
I think it's pretty sunk, quite frankly. I just do.
When you look at so everybody was getting the ball to Jerry Judy, but was there any other receivers that stuck out?
There were some guys out there.
Thrash.
They were out there.
That's not great. There were other guys on the field running around.
Really? So the fact that we did the dress wire.
But again, we're talking about one.
Yeah,
we're talking
yeah.
about practice 2
Okay.
of OTAs.
Yeah.
But
What about the little white dude from Kent State? Everybody's excited about
he catches
him.
a lot of balls from the rookies. but
Yeah.
he's a little white dude from Kent State. He's big.
You know there's got to be a little white wide receiver every year in Browns training camp. that the
He
fans
was
get
a
excited about.
priority recruit of Sean Lewis, who
Yeah.
then went to be Shedeur's offensive coordinator, but got fired after 8 games.
Oh.
And Luke
Yeah.
is a great story of a local kid making it, and he's
Yeah.
5'6". He just
Is he 5'6"?
I don't know what they list him at.
Oh
but
my
to
God.
me, he's 5'6". And
Short of me.
everybody's going to say you're an idiot. but
Yeah, yeah.
He's. I hope he has a great career in Canada.
Hey man,
Is the World League of American Football still around? I don't know. He could be playing for
my
Joe
goodness,
Thomas's
man.
Germany team there.
it's sad to say it like
Yeah.
that.
Do you have any hope for Cedric Tillman becoming at least a legitimate third wide receiver for the Browns?
I do, because we saw it for a few games last
Yeah.
year when we finally saw an NFL offense.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
His thing is he's big. That's his thing.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing. Right?
Okay.
So he's never going to be super shifty.
Yeah.
But he can play that outside receiver and run those routes, which in this offense and with Joe Flacco a quarterback, there's going to be opportunities for that guy.
Right.
Jason, you were in LA that first game that Flacco played when we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I remember the safety bites because he thinks there's no way he's throwing that backside post because there's no quarterback, maybe 3 quarterbacks in the league who can even think about getting it there. Joe can do that.
Yeah.
If Cedric Tillman can play the outside, play the post, and go chase that one, he
Yeah.
can play. And I think the lack of investment, now we can nitpick a lot of things they've done,
Yeah.
but I think the lack of big-time investment in receiver is probably, hey, we have Cedric Tillman for 2 more years. We saw it.
Right.
We see progression. He can play.
They did bring in Dawand Johnson, who has had a level of success in the league. obviously he was cut by two very good franchises, which is not a good sign that he's quit on these teams. Where's he at?
Nobody knows.
Why wouldn't he be there yesterday? I mean,
wasn't
maybe
even
there's
there?
maybe there's
that's
some
what I
reason.
want to know. Why was he?
There's no
there?
excuse for that.
They
Myles
better
Garrett.
come out and tell me that his girl delivered a baby or something.
Right,
like
that's
that.
why,
Like
yeah.
if it's something like that, all right.
That's the only excuse.
Listen, if he's there and he can play a little bit, he is
Yeah.
the starting slot receiver on this team.
Right. He
is.
should be.
He is. Now, what that translates to, I don't
Yeah.
know. And they're still going to dump David Njoku the ball 100 times, as they probably should.
Yeah.
Right? But Deontay Johnson is out there with Judy and Tillman. There's such a break from that tier to the next tier. And that's not knowing what you're going to get from Johnson and Tillman. That's the kind of break there is in that group.
Quinshawn Judkins, I mean, what can you
Go Bucks.
What can we learn about running backs in this? Nothing, right?
No,
I mean,
and
can
Jason
you?
pointed out, like, he's getting reps with the ones, and he was,
Yeah.
but then he's also getting reps with the threes. Judkins
Yeah.
looks the part, right? We know that they chose him because his body type fits, his style fits, he's
Yeah.
fast. I mean, he killed the workout session. You know, Henderson overtook him last year, but what does that mean? And then obviously in the national title game, when it really counts, Judkins had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's a good player. He's the starting running back on this team. Now, is that in August 15th or October 15th? I don't know, but he is going to get the ball a lot.
That's good.
What about on the defensive side of the ball? You know, with Myles Garrett out, how did them edge rushers look? JTS, I know that was.
Yeah, JTS was back there. The one play he hit Pickett, and the starting offensive line tried to run off the sideline and kick his ass because you're not supposed to get within 5 feet of the quarterback. So, but again, you're not wearing pads, Tyvus.
They could block.
And think about who the second offensive line is for the Browns right now.
Yeah.
With Conklin and Batonio not out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So was it Cornelius Lucas at right tackle then, and Zinter at left guard filling in for those two?
Correct. That was Lucas at right tackle, Zinter at left guard. I didn't see Tevin Jenkins in there, so I'm wondering if he has an injury or something like that. He will play. And he's probably the backup plan at left tackle, or one of the backup plans at left tackle. He started games at guard and tackle. He was like a top 30 free agent on some of these lists.
That was crazy. I thought the Bengals were
It's an
gonna sign
injury
him.
thing. Yeah, it's an injury thing. So but the Browns gave him like $2.5 million guaranteed, or a little more than that. So he's going to be on the team. But he's on 1 year deal. All 3 starting interior guys are on a 1 year deal.
Right.
Lucas, I think, is on a 1 year. I mean, he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
And then you've got Dawand Jones, who's under contract for 2 years and is extension eligible if he can do it. And like this was always supposed to be the year that they were back in the first round. They were either going to be taking their left tackle of the future or their wide receiver number 1. And obviously it's gone haywire. But like if Dawand Jones can be the left tackle and play 17 games or even 14 games, you have solved a huge problem at a premium position.
Big time.
But we're a long way away from it being solved,
Right.
but you can see the path.
Yeah, I mean, he's missed games due to injury, I think, for 3 different injuries in 2 years. So
Yes.
Zach made a good, I thought, observation yesterday. We were talking about Dawand, that he's been here because he's been rehabbing.
Right.
Because I thought, like, well, this is the worst of it now. Like, the scary part with Dawand is what's he going to do after the season ends until you get him back in the building. And Zach's like, well, he's been around to rehab.
Right.
But I think if he's in this kind of shape in May, I think it's a safe bet that he's not going to show up in July at 400.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Dawand, like twice at the Greenbrier, he missed a practice early in camp. And you miss him because he's the biggest guy out there, right?
Yeah, right,
and it was like an allergy issue or something, and who cares about July 29th practice,
Sure.
right? But you wonder, like, can he do it? Is conditioning an issue? Then he was right back out there, and he did it.
Yeah.
But you're always going to wonder. So if he can maintain that weight and that health, like that's a big storyline that we haven't talked about enough. For quarterback reasons, it's easier to talk about skill players.
Right.
But, when you look at the scheme of things here in this draft, and you can nitpick and wonder, I think they got some good players. Nobody knows what the hell's going to happen at quarterback, but they didn't take an offensive lineman, and they got all these guys who don't have contracts. And they got Deshaun Watson's cap number at $80 million for next year.
Are they going to cut him with a June 1st designation next year? Is that the plan?
I'm not sure
probably?
exactly how it's going to work out, but
Yeah.
they're going to have to at least explore a formal split, which will accelerate. But we'll have to see where they are.
Right, yeah.
Because, it just depends. If you have 2 top 10 picks next year,
Yeah.
you're going to let a lot of guys walk. You're probably going to burn down a lot of money as much as you can in 1 year and move forward. If you're in a different place, which isn't totally out of the question,
Sure.
then you're going to have to see how to manage that. So they're not afraid to spend ahead to manipulate the cap. I just don't know what's going to be necessary and what they're going to have to do.
What's your take on, like, the organization? What's best for the organization is to play the young quarterbacks at least at some point to see if there could be legitimate starters, because you got to know, because you're going to have at least one high pick next year. Supposedly the quarterback group is better. On the other hand, every team wants to win. Every coach wants to win at least. Yeah. And Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry could both be on the hot seat coming off a 3-win season. Where do those guys stand? Do you feel like if they go 3-14 again, they're going to get fired, or no?
Well, as soon as you say that, my first thought is the coaches want to win. The coaches want nothing to do with tanking, draft picking, even checking the standings.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yes.
So that's why I think Flacco's the no-brainer. And the other reason I think Flacco's the no-brainer is I think in camp he's going to bring what they need. He's the guy that's done it before. He's going to get guys in the right place. He's going to get guys in gear. He's run this offense before, too. Right. But big picture, Bull, it's all fair to wonder. And I've said, like, the owner shows no desire at all to push these guys out or to panic externally.
Yeah.
Right? But if Kenny Pickett's out there scoring 13 points a game, then everybody's going to get fired, and they should.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a leap.
GM trading down from 3 to 5 and picking up an extra 1 is a GM that tells me he's in no danger.
That's right.
He's not feeling any heat whatsoever.
That's right.
Let me ask you about the defense.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
If we're having this discussion, it's probably a fair discussion. Because we can talk about practice.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And if they're 1-3 or 1-5 or whatever seems really realistic, then what are we going to be talking about on October 4th?
Exactly. Switching quarterbacks.
Well, okay, so what about the defense? I mean, do you think that there's a real possibility that they can get back to the level that they were 2 years ago? Because to me, I think that was ultimately what helped them be successful.
Yeah, I think they're going to miss JOK like crazy, right? But I think they realize that Mason Graham is needed now and in the future to hold that down. A Schwartz defense is really good when you have those inside guys, doing what they do. Because they went from a really awesome Dalvin Tomlinson year to a really shaky one. They cut him up. They cut him. He just wasn't healthy, right? Yeah. So, I think Delpit's a solid player. For his pay grade, they probably need him to be a spectacular one. I think Denzel Ward has been awesome. And then Emerson looked like he was going to make $50 million and had a crappy year. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of moving parts there, Tybus. I think they might have to trade Greg Newsome, and part of that is it's just like, how can you pay a number 3 corner $13 million, right? But, like, there are really good pieces on that defense, and especially if Graham and Schlesinger are ready to play right away, and I think they are, and I think they have to be, so we'll find out.
Is Cam Mitchell still with the 2 nickel?
That's a great question. That's one of those things from yesterday that I'm watching 2 fields of quarterbacks. So that's why I want to get to minicamp and see who's there. Yeah. Ronnie Hickman was out there but not practicing. Alex Wright, who was really coming along, I think, last year before getting hurt, was out there but not practicing. So the good part about that is those guys have been in 2 camps previously, 3 camps, I think, for Wright. Like, let those other guys in and see. History says they're going to play a lot of quarterbacks.
Yep.
But history says there's also a safety, a linebacker, a running back somewhere that is a lot better than we think and is more in this team's plans than we think. So in the second OTA, we just don't know those answers. We'll watch the quarterbacks and argue about them.
Is there any world where they carry 4 quarterbacks on the 50?
There is. I've thought about this. There is.
Yeah.
They started to last year. They had some things that they were either exploring or thought would go and didn't. But I think in this situation they would. I mean, you're not paying these guys much.
Right.
You drafted the 2, and obviously you want to see them through. I mean, really, the guy they have the biggest commitment to is Dillon Gabriel, when you think about it.
Because he's a third-round pick.
Right.
A bad quarterback gets like 14 or 18 guaranteed, and Pickett and Flacco combined make 7 guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if they think that they can dangle them later, or they really think they're going to need multiple guys, and given Joe's age, they might. Like, I think it's feasible.
So what's the trickle down of that? Where can you nip and tuck a position to fit 4 quarterbacks?
Well, what they've done is they've brought up linebackers and safeties to play special teams, and they haven't had a returner on this team, right? And they haven't had 6 or 7 receivers because they haven't had 6 or 7 NFL receivers. So they're going to try to bring the fullback back. They're going to try to, they're always going to keep 9 or 10 offensive linemen, especially this year.
Yeah.
Can't lose a young offensive lineman who could help with the contract situations there.
Right.
So I think you could trim a receiver. I think you could not keep Pierre Strong. Yep. And I think you could just use the flexibility at the bottom of your roster to ship out a safety, a linebacker, week to week, depending on who you're playing.
Right. And if some other team gets an injury, maybe they get desperate and make a trade, or it might work itself out.
From August 20th to 28th, we get all worked out up about the roster. And then the fact is, of the 15 guys that are on the bubble in some sort, 13 of them play for you.
Right.
One gets traded away or claimed. One just never makes it, and the rest of the 13 play. Whether they start 10 games or they get called up for 4 games and only play special teams, they play.
Yeah.
It's 53 plus 16 on the practice squad, plus some guys who inevitably aren't going to be here or on the active roster for some reason. Almost all of the 90 are going to suit up. right? And there's a drop-off on this roster right now, and that's just from
Sure.
from the bad drafting and the lack of having the picks that they've had.
Zach, when you look at Joe Flacco versus Kenny Pickett, from a fan's perspective, right? If the fans loved Joe Flacco because he made them look like a real offense. You talked about that with Jameis for 2 seconds last year. Obviously, Joe did the same for a little longer last year. So the fans, they believe in Joe Flacco, or at least a percentage of the fan base. Obviously, nobody in our fan base cares or has any support for Kenny Pickett. So from an outside perspective, from a fan perspective, there's probably less pressure on the organization to go to the young quarterbacks if you start Flacco versus Pickett. However, I don't know that the team obviously shouldn't care about that, but sometimes teams are influenced by things like that. Does that play a role at all?
Can I give you a really sad stat before I give you an answer?
Yes, please.
Joe Flacco's in the top 3 in wins in that stadium, even though he only played for the Browns there 3 times. Kenny Pickett's 0-1 in that stadium and lost to Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Forgot about that.
That was the only win of DTR's starting career.
Yeah.
Correct?
All right, I'm going home now. See.
Well, isn't Roethlisberger up there on the list?
Roethlisberger was number 1 until Baker passed him.
I mean, the second and third guys have played 0 and 5 games for the Browns.
Right.
Flacco was
That's beyond insane.
Flacco was the top 3 before he ever put on a Browns jersey.
Yes.
Yeah, he won every year.
That's just amazing.
One of his last starts was they lost to Baker, one of his last starts, and they replaced him a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, right.
And then he came around.
Yeah.
I really don't know how it'll go, but I would say that Kenny would have to be really impressive to beat him. And maybe I'm just reading this wrong.
Yeah.
But, I don't think I think it will be who commands the huddle in the locker room.
Right.
From what I saw, Kenny was first in the drill. Joe was first in the first team drill. Then they ran it to 7-on-7, and Kenny was first, and they ran it back, and Kenny, that they completely alternated from what I saw, and we have every reason to believe that'll be the same. And so, in August, and especially when they go to Carolina in August, who's first will matter. But right now, I think it's a 50-50 split, and I really think it's let's evaluate this before we even with the older. I think with the younger guys, if you see a rep bump or a certain opportunity they put them in, that's by design. But I think next Wednesday, if Joe takes 7 snaps throwing to Judy and those guys, and Kenny takes 5, I don't think it's anything other than how it was then.
And you guys know these guys personally, but Batonio and Teller and the Jerry Judy, these veteran guys, they want Flacco to play. There's got to be no doubt about that, right?
You would think that Jerry Judy would want Flacco to play.
And
Judy for sure.
He just raises, if nothing else, Joe Flacco raises the floor of the offense.
Yeah.
The other guys could, but there's no way you could know that.
Of David Njoku's 8 or 10 games in his career, how many of them were with Joe Flacco? Most.
Yes.
How long do you think Joe will last this season?
That's a good question.
that's the thing. I don't have a problem with Joe starting at all. How long before he does do
it's a
what
great
he's been
question.
doing? That's
and then there's another question on that is what do you expose that guy to in the preseason? Do the other guys need reps at his expense? And do you allow him to go out there and play a half? Probably if he's the starter.
Yeah.
Right? But if there really is an expiration date or a number of hits, it's going to give him problems or his lack of mobility.
Right.
Where is Kenny Pickett certainly better than Joe Flacco? Escaping the rush.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Joe can escape it by just throwing it to the 37th row. But that's probably, to me, the one area. And we don't see – pads don't come on. Quarterbacks don't get hit.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Jay, you guys got –
I got one real quick.
Go ahead.
At a rookie minicamp,
Yeah.
there was quite a buzz made about Mason Graham throwing up. Zach, did you see him throw up at day 2 of OTA?
I did not, but Mason Graham is going to be just fine.
Yes.
He's never going to win the warm-ups. He's going to be just fine. He's going to be a really good player, I think.
Will he be a guy who can get you 8, 9, 10 sacks eventually?
Anybody who does that makes a lot of money
Yeah.
from an interior position.
I mean, is it unfair to expect that? The guy was drafted top 5.
Put it this way. I can't wait till they give us Jim Schwartz, because every Jim Schwartz press conference is a football history lesson anyway.
Right.
And I can't wait to see all the guys that he's coached. Why did he speak up for Mason Graham? I can't wait to hear the names that he invokes there.
All right. Zach, the most important question of Browns camp we haven't talked about yet is who's going to win this big long snapper battle? They've moved on from the vet. 2 undrafted free agents. Do you have a favorite?
Well,
Is there
speaking
a
of the
betting
fans,
line?
yeah, they want the local guy. Sunahara, he's from Bay Village. So, yeah, the fans are going to want that.
You
So
got to go with him, don't
you?
you?
Oh, you got to bow to the fan pressure when it comes to that. Sure.
And before you go, tell us about now the lunch spread that Mike so rudely cut us off about.
Turkey meatloaf, chicken parm.
Chicken parm.
Pasta sides, a salad, nice salad. It was good.
Can we trust?
Wait, you talking about the Browns fan, Joe?
Yeah, that's what
They
the
gave you
Browns-
chicken parm.
It's the healthy chicken parm, too,
Media.
because it's what they're feeding the players.
That's what happens when you're a media member.
But the Browns, if you'd show up, you needed to.
Yeah.
I'm not a media guy.
Who
It's not always that good, but it was good yesterday.
I mean,
was
with the
hitting the
players.
buffet line too much? Was it Darryl Ryder? Was it I don't know who you got there?
I was caught in expense hell yesterday for 3 hours. I was trying to file expenses, and I couldn't pay attention to what was going on with the lunch.
You lose your focus.
All
there.
I saw was Zach was first. That's all I saw.
Okay. Any comment on that? You defend yourself. There's nothing wrong with being first.
We're not running from the truth. Kenny Pickett's going to get people fired, and I was first in the lunch line, okay?
That's all we love, Zach. Zach, you're the best. Thank you so much for the insight here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You can find Zach on Twitter at Action Jackson. Read his stuff on The Athletic. And just a reminder, Zach was the only person who was right in the quarterback situation last summer.
That's true.
He's trying to make it 2 for 2 this summer. So, Zach,